Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, and this is my wife's Samsung Galaxy Note 3. We got these at the same time, and we have customized them differently. This is really Diana's first Android device that she's ever owned, thanks to T-Mobile.
Yes.
And I thought for a review, we would do a he said, she said, even though a lot of our thoughts happen to be in line with one another, and we didn't plan that at all. I'm not telling Diana what to say any more than she's telling me what to say, right?
Right.
Tell him I told you not to say anything that I said, right?
We haven't really shared anything yet.
Well, you've seen some of the customizations I've done, and you've wondered how I did it, but I was joking when I said to tell... Anyway, I've got a rubric that I wanted to run down, and starting with your initial impressions when you first saw the Galaxy Note 3. You thought it was a tablet.
I did. I thought it was nice and big. And actually, now having this, I've grabbed my other tablets a lot less.
Oh, so this has now become your default tablet?
Yes, and it fits in my pockets, like my jacket pockets, and I love it.
My initial impressions were just as positive. I had an experience with the Galaxy Note 2 and thought it was good for the time, but didn't really use it all that frequently, even over the course of the year. That said, my initial impressions of the Note 3 were even more positive than my initial impressions of the Note 2, and I will get into why throughout this entire review. Suffice it to say, this fits in one hand, although it's not really optimized for single-handed operation. That's especially if you have small hands and fingers like Diana and I happen to have. Although there is a software tweak to allow for a more easy single-handed operation. It's kind of a hack. Really, this is designed for using with two hands, not necessarily one, unless, of course, you're just holding onto it, looking at it. It's big! It is big, and it makes everything else seem small after you've held onto it. But my initial impressions were positive. Your initial impressions?
Were positive.
In the hand, it feels good, very lightweight. Despite being very big, it is slim. And some people don't appreciate the back and the way that it was constructed, this faux leather with stitching that's not real stitching. Diana liked it. She said it was stylish.
I love it. It's so classy. I love the class.
I don't understand this classy thing. I'm still learning.
It's leather and it's not plastic.
But it's not leather.
But it's even if it's faux leather.
You still like it?
I still like it. I would still wear this with a fancy dress.
You hear that? She would wear a Note 3. I wouldn't even go that far, you know, like wearing it around my neck or something like that.
I would take it around feeling classy.
So it feels pretty good in your hand? Pretty lightweight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Love it.
That was part of the experience, you know, holding onto it and actually using it. I went from using a Nexus 4 as a default go-to Android device, and then I accidentally destroyed it. This has become my go-to Android experience, and I have several, but this is really your only Android experience, right, Diana?
And I'm glad this is my first Android experience, because so far I am loving everything about it.
And she's seen Android in the past and kind of commented on some things that, well, I noted as well. It's just that she saw things differently. And that being said, she's really been happy with the Note 3.
Except for one thing. There are some apps that are not compatible with this device.
Yeah, now that's a sad thing about the Android ecosystem, even using Google Play. It's disappointing, but that being said, the app selection is ample if you're used to Android or you're expecting that many major applications will be available on Google Play or through the Google Play Store on your Android device, and the Note 3 would be no exception, except for when the app is not compatible, which was disappointing for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in terms of the design, some people don't mind it. Some people do. I found that it was a little annoying to see Samsung's label up front. That I don't know why they put it. Well, I know why they put it there, but I don't know. That to me kind of takes away from the quality of the device. Now, when you press the the capacitive buttons, well, I guess they are built into hardware at the bottom of the screen, yours illuminate. Mm-hmm. There's a toggle, and I was very happy to see this, that'll turn them off. so I can press the menu button or the back button and they don't illuminate.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's nice.
Samsung really did add a lot of modifications that better allowed me to make this an Android experience that I wanted. And it is radically different from the way that Diana configured hers, and she's not really the same type of system tweaker that I might be, especially having experience with Android and her not so much. That still did not take away from your overall experience. Now, one of the reasons why this is my go-to Android device, not just because it's a big screen, which is nice, and I'll get to that in a second, but because it's responsive. And you've heard me nag and complain about jank and stutteriness, and it's still apparent in Android on the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, but not as much as I've seen it on other devices. So that is to the credit of the Android experience in conjunction with the hardware. The faster the hardware gets, the better Android gets, the better experience, the smoother it is. This is running Android 4.3, which for all intents and purposes today is the latest version of Android, so it's nice to see a new version of Android from an OEM that adds its own layer of customization on top. Very responsive screen. I very rarely would run into issues, and it's most pronounced like when you're scrolling. So here, look, I'm operating with one hand. Can you see me okay on that end, baby?
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't sure. Let's go back. I need a bigger hand, I think. That's my problem. It's not the problem with the device, it's the problem with my hand. So as you're scrolling here, you can see it's very, very smooth. Frame rate, I think, very project buttery. If it's not running 60 frames a second, I'm shocked. Every once in a while you hit a stutter, but it's not so bad. It really isn't. This is a joy to use in terms of general responsiveness. There is still some amount of lag, not to be confused with jank or stutter. For example, as I'm hovering my, I guess finger, I was going to say cursor around, you can see just how much of a delay there is in terms of screen responsiveness. And that, unfortunately, is just apparent in just about every Android device today. And that is empirical evidence, not just me talking out of my phablet. That's the technical term for what a Note 3 is. You didn't have a problem with the screen, did you?
No, I didn't. It was wonderful.
Wait, so you've seen the type of stutter I've talked about in the past.
Right.
Have you experienced that at all?
I have not, but I haven't really, what's the word? Customized mine.
Well, you wouldn't have needed to. If you didn't notice any stutter or jank,
right.
That should say it all.
Yeah.
All right, what about color representation and text clarity? Like when you were reading your articles or, viewing photos or videos?
I did notice a little blue tint.
Ah.
And everything kind of has a blue tint in watching shows or watching YouTube. And I don't know if you noticed that too.
Not specifically, but, if it's something that is apparent to you, then it must be.
The color is a little off.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, I know that the Samsung has added the screen mode, toggle for you to adjust the display. So maybe if you go in there and you tweak it to go, let's say if you're watching a lot of videos, you can go to movie, and that may dull things out a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Won't be 100% for you, but at least it's something.
Something, yeah, definitely.
Clarity of text.
Oh, perfect.
Very sharp screen.
Love it. Very sharp. In fact, my brother asked me today, he's thinking about getting this, and I told him he should. Well,
okay, we kind of, spoiler alert, we both like the Note 3, and not just because we got these on review from T-Mobile. Very, very grateful for that. They're really genuinely good devices. Not just good Android devices, just good devices in general. The next thing I wanted to note was audio quality. Do you listen to anything? I mean, you listen to video.
Right. And I have made a few phone calls. My dad has actually called me on this. So it seemed rather clear to me.
Right. So the speakers right there in the bottom, not amazing, standard as far as smartphones or tablets are concerned. Not great, but not bad either.
Right. I still find myself holding my hand over to listen better.
And that's something you might do with other devices that have speakers,
Right.
Sitting on the top, bottom, or side, not pointed directly to your ears.
Yeah.
All right, what about cameras?
Cameras. Well, let me show you a picture of someone that I didn't even know was on my phone.
Linus, what's he doing on there?
It looks great though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So there's Linus's pores and his teeth. 13 megapixels, and I would say it really is an above average camera that you might find on a smartphone.
Yeah.
It would take better outdoor photos, I found, than indoor photos in general. I don't know if it's doing any kind of post-processing at all, but sometimes the details get a little fudged, like they're softening it up to eliminate noise, and I really wish that I could step around that in an easier way. I'm sure I probably could with, an app or a system tweak, but I generally don't go too far into it. Suffice it to say, the camera quality was good for most outdoor shots, if not all outdoor shots. Indoor shots, it was okay. Diana liked the, beauty option in the camera? What was it, beauty face?
Yeah.
Is that what you were marking on?
Yeah.
I don't, why, you just like it because it says beauty face.
I know. I don't know why it says it, but I guess it captures the prettiest of your face and then boom.
Well, she liked it.
It boosted my ego a little.
Well, even in low light, when we did it in indoors, you took, I think it was a couple photos. Let's see if I can remember how I get to my photos here. I've got it slightly customized, and I use so many Android devices that sometimes I forget what I'm using, when, where, and how. So this is a shot of Diana indoors, and you can see that she's just holding it with her hand. It's really, really steady, but a lot of the details, you see how it's smudged? You look airbrushed. So,
which I love.
Okay, maybe that's beauty face, is that you get airbrushed for that. But, it did okay. It wasn't bad. I've seen far worse, and I've seen maybe better as well. So low light, it does okay, at least as far as the cameras are concerned. Now, battery.
Ooh, battery is not so great. But with the big device, do you think we should maybe assume that?
It could be a good assumption. I mean, it's a big screen. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very fast. It's very capable. And the battery does drain insanely quickly, even with everything turned off and toggled.
Right.
Samsung's got the ability within TouchWiz to go in and, where is it? Power saving right there. So you can save some battery by toggling that. Not a big deal if you wanted to do it. If you didn't want to do it, I've turned off a lot of system services that I knew I didn't need to have running in the background. I keep things lean, mean, and clean, and I still found the battery was draining pretty quickly. You can swap the battery out, which is one advantage of having a removable back on this particular device. That being said, you could probably get through most of the day of regular use. Intense use, on an average day, you're going to need to recharge that puppy. And
one thing I really like is that you can turn on and off your screen with the side button. I don't know why. It feels
the power
effortless.
Button. You mean the power button?
Yeah.
I had my elbow on the table and it slipped off there a couple seconds ago. I had to explain it because people were wondering what was going on. It wasn't the wine.
But I'm really loving the power button right there for some reason.
All right, well, fair enough.
It's easy to get to. I don't know.
Hardware and software parity. So I usually speak to this in an overarching experience. As I noted before, Samsung has the TouchWiz experience. I went and replaced my launcher with Nova, which a lot of geeks have done, if only because of the options aboard. I removed just about as much Samsungness as I possibly could from this device, and it was still fast. I mean, I still enjoyed it probably more than I would have if I wouldn't be able to do something like that. But that being said, there was still a lot of issues that I found that I wouldn't necessarily find in a stock Android device. Kind of disappointing. Samsung adds their layer of modifications. So for example, I pull out my S Pen, I get the menu that pops up, and then I can go in and use all these features which we've already detailed in a video. Samsung made that pretty integral as integral. They integrated it rather nicely. The problem is that the UI would change up. Like it would go from the Android UI to Samsung's TouchWiz UI to another third-party UI seemingly, and that was kind of disappointing to see. So there was a lot of, not rough spots, just it was a little sloppy, and I think they could do a bit more cleaning up, and that could be something that's inherent with the way that Android's implemented by a lot of OEMs. So not to say that it was a negative for Samsung, just a little bit of sloppiness that you kind of get used to seeing, especially if you're dealing with an OEM. So it was average as far as that was concerned. I did not feel, beyond the UI issues of things looking different depending on what you were using, and I'm talking about default apps that are installed out of the box. Hardware and software seem to work pretty well in conjunction with one another. I did not have any issues with that, and I'm assuming you didn't even notice anything at all.
I like how you don't have to touch the screen. You just kind of hover over it.
That can be done with the S Pen or even with your finger. You can hover over thumbnails for images, go to your gallery, and you can do the same thing to expand the thumbnail without actually tapping it. Just a little tip I thought I'd tell you about.
Cool.
I don't know. Now I've lost her. She's going to be S-penning for the rest of this video. All right, the next thing I think we should probably speak to is the cost relative to the value. These things are not cheap.
Yes.
That said, if you are looking for a device that's going to take you through 2 years of average use, as far as the Android devices I've seen in the past year, including the Nexus 4, I would say this ranks right up there. This is easily a #1 pick.
I would agree.
Why?
Because it's so classy.
Again, back to the classy. So we're getting the classy aspect of it. You didn't feel like it was a substandard experience.
Right.
I'm just trying to translate.
It doesn't feel cheap, so therefore I would pay the price. Just because of the feeling that it doesn't feel cheap at all.
See, a lot of geeks out there would go after, well, how fast is it? What are the specs?
Exactly. And I'm a non-geek, so I'm telling you what I think about.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video with you, because you're bringing that perspective in on this. Really, I think this is Samsung's flagship device.
Yeah.
It's, as far as OEMs go with Android devices and experiences, this is, to me, leading the pack far and away. And I don't say that about every device, and you guys know that. In fact, I take my lumps every time I say something negative about anything.
Right.
But, I gotta call it like I see it, and I would have no qualms, aside from some of the issues that I said I've run into. Not a perfect device, but I think in terms of price, cost per value, especially if you can get it subsidized. Granted, we did not pay anything. As I said, T-Mobile provided these as review units, and we're very grateful for that. I still have no issues with providing that as an option for you. If you're really looking for a good Android device, you're looking for a large screen. I didn't use the S Pen all that much. If you want a quote-unquote stylus, they don't call it a stylus, S Pen, whatever. Yeah, that's a nice little bonus. Great screen, great speed. Good Android experience. It's really difficult for me to recommend other Android devices by OEMs at this point, and I'm talking about anything that's not a Nexus product. This is #1 on my list for Android devices today, non-Google Android devices, which may make more sense to geeks. Do you understand what I mean when I talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I didn't know, because sometimes...
And I really dislike when some phones go the cheap route, like they maybe, to make it more affordable, they lessen the camera experience or lessen something. Something's got to be lessened to be more affordable. And I don't like that. So I'd rather pay a good price and have a great device than to, feel cheaped out on something. Especially the camera.
I don't know if I could have said it any better. So who is this for? I would say anybody who's looking for a tablet or phone, a phablet type of experience. You're looking for a good Android experience. You're looking for something that's going to take you 2 or possibly even 3 years in. It's a very powerful device. That's who I would think this type of device would be for. A power user. I would not say an average user is going to necessarily like this as much, but then again, Diana liked it, and I would consider you definitely not a power user.
No, I can tell you in 10 minutes if I like it or not. And
I think we've taken about that more than that time talking about the Note 3. But yeah, for the most part, I think that I don't know. I sound like I'm gushing, which I'm sure has a few people upset at this point. But it's difficult to find things that I didn't like about this device.
Exactly.
And if I did, I've already mentioned it. There are a lot of things to like. There are more things to like about this device than would keep me from picking it up as my go-to Android device, which to me should say it all. Mm-hmm. And this is your only Android device.
Yeah.
And
which
now
I go to.
Your favorite tablet.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to speak over you as we're doing this dynamic back and forth in a kind of a vlog style, but hopefully you guys appreciated it enough to remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you want to see us do this again in this type of style, just let us know. For this kind of perspective on whatever, right?
I'm showing off my Lego ring.
See, I'm turning her into a geek, one step at a time.